When cooking lettuce, have you ever cut off the leaves and throw away the rest? Don't worry, we all do that, as the rest of the lettuce is too hard to cook or eat. But what if I tell you that the rest of the lettuce can be used for something much more amazing? Well, in this video, we're going to explain to you how to regrow vegetables such as lettuce and bok choy. We have split this video into 4 parts. Why can plants regrow? Why is hydroponic solution better than soil in regrowth? And have conducted this experiment on 2 different plant species, romaine lettuce and bok choy.
Before we move on to our research, I would like to explain why can plants regrow. So plants can regrow is because that they have high plasticity and they are totipotent. When plants have high plasticity, it means that they are able to detect environmental stress and react accordingly, and they are totipotent, which means they are able to regenerate lost tissues from cells differentiation. To allow a plant to grow, the cells need to be actively dividing. These actively dividing cells can be found in the apical meristems, which are the shoots and the roots. So why can they keep growing when the apical meristems are cut off? This happens because of 2 hormones produced by the plants, auxin and cytokinin. Originally, auxin is produced by the apical shoots and travels via phloem, while cytokinin is produced in the apical roots and travels with water via xylem. When the apical shoots are present, they will exert apical dominance by releasing auxin throughout the plant. Meanwhile, cytokinin from the roots will be transported mainly to the apical shoots to promote continual growth, which means the other parts of the plants have lower cytokinin level. This high auxin to cytokinin ratio throughout the plant will inhibit the growth of axillary buds, and they will remain dormant if the apical meristems are present. Axillary buds can be found at the axil of the plant. So when the apex shoots are disrupted, which means you cut them off, the amount of auxin reduces and cytokinin will be transported to the axillary buds. Thus, the axillary buds will be activated and new shoots will be formed. So, this explains why even after you cut off the leaves of your lettuce, they can still regrow under suitable condition.
So, why is hydroponic better than soil in regrowth? First of all, it allows us to save water. This means that hydroponic growing technique can be utilized in places that has dry and arid climates where water is scarce. Therefore, this effectively improves the agricultural sector in developing countries. Next, you will have a complete control over various factors such as nutrient level and light level. Besides that, it allows you to save a lot of space, especially with vertical hydroponic gardening. In hydroponics, plant roots has direct access to the nutrient solution. Therefore, the plant does not need to spend its energy on root expansion. Thus, the energy is used to increase the rate of growth, which in the end will result in better yield as well as saving time. Hydroponic growing technique requires fertilizer as well. However, it is called a hydroponic solution instead. In this solution, there's a value known as NPK value that shows the amount of nutrients in the solution. NPK stands for nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. For example, 10-10-10 shows the respective amount of nutrient level. Nitrogen helps with the growth of leaves, phosphorus helps with the root and fruit development, and lastly, potassium helps with the overall function of the plant to perform correctly. Most hydroponic solution has high level of nitrogen and potassium, as the plants do not need phosphorus to develop their roots because they get direct access from the nutrient solution.
In this experiment, we'll be comparing the regrowth rate of romaine lettuce using hydroponic solution and water. So a little information about how regrow works for store-bought romaine lettuce. After cutting away the leaves from the lettuce, the base of the lettuce is then placed in water. After a week or 2, it will start forming roots and leaf will start growing. And after a few more weeks, it can be harvested and eaten. So with this in mind, we have created constant variables that we applied towards all plants in order to have a uniform result. They have to be cut at 5 cm from the base and put into water until roots form, then transferred to their respective solution. The reason why we use hydroponic solution is to see whether it has any changes towards regrow plants like lettuce, and if they do, how it would compare in terms of growth towards just using water. In this experiment, we measure the growth of the lettuce using the size of their leaves grown in centimeters. So here are the results of our experiment on romaine lettuce. First of all, over 25 romaine lettuce have been used in this experiment, and each lettuce is labeled with a letter. As you can see in day 1, there are 6 lettuce present as we have performed triplicate for each solution, hydroponic and water. So after growing roots, 3 lettuce will go into hydroponic solution and 3 will go into water. We performed triplicate in order to measure any variation between lettuce and their growth solution. And right at the bottom, you can see the one highlighted in red indicates that I've transferred them into a water, and the one highlighted in yellow indicates I've transferred them into hydroponic solution. And on the right side of the table, the one highlighted in light green indicates a new brand of romaine lettuce I use, which I'll explain more on later. Sadly, as you can see from the table, the plant's lifespan was really short for most of the experiment, some lasting for only 1 to 3 days. This is because we've encountered a lot of problems throughout our experiment. The first problem being submerging half the plant in water. As beginners in planting, we made some very beginner's mistakes, such as this, which causes a few lettuce. Submerging half the plant in water caused the plant to get soggy from the stem and die. Therefore, our solution to this was to only fill up the water to the base of the plant instead of submerging half of it in water. Our next problem was the lettuce was cut too short. We initially thought by setting this constant and cutting the lettuce at 5 cm, we were able to see difference in growth for each lettuce. However, we learned that this affects a plant's growth right from the start. As you can see from the picture on the left, the cut was made too deep into the plant, which reveals the stem, disallowing the lettuce to grow leaves. The cut should be made dependent on the lettuce size, and it should be cut where the stem begins, allowing the plant to grow leaves, much like the picture on the right. As we found this out, we discovered the need to measure the weight of each plant for our experiment, because the weight of all plants will be different as they are cut differently from each other. As you can see from the table, this problem has caused many of our plants to die, only allowing it to survive for a day or two. Our third problem was roots were not forming. The roots were supposed to form within a week or two, and it was already tough to keep the plants alive for 2 weeks, and even after they survived, they still would not grow roots. One of the causes, I think, was that the plant were too close to the base, therefore it had no space to grow roots. Which our solution was to make our own DIY plastic net pot. Sadly, with the net pot, we still couldn't see any growth of roots, but it does allow the plants to grow better. As you can see from the table, the area I circle is where I implemented the DIY net pot to all plants, and they showed better growth compared to the one in the first few weeks. Moving on to our final problem, which was our plant quality was not good. The initial brand of the lettuce bought was small in size, and this affected its growth. Therefore, we bought a new type of lettuce which was larger in size, and although slightly expensive, it grew much better compared to the cheaper ones, producing better results. So with all these problems we encountered, we were unable to obtain satisfying results that showed a clear answer towards whether lettuce grew faster in hydroponic solution or water. However, we do have plants that may provide some information on the lettuce growth in hydroponic solution and water, which are plant C and K. And towards the right side of the table, plant T, U, V, W, X, and Y. I will go more into detail on plant C and K, as their lifespan was long and they were added to their respective growth solution early in their life. As you can see from the table, plant C was the only lettuce that managed to grow out of the first batch. It lasted for a total of 21 days, and its leaves grew to a total of 6.6 centimeters. These are the pictures of its early stages. And on day 7 is when I added the net pot, and it continued growing, reaching its maximum length at day 13. It then started to brown a little in the middle, and I tried solving this by spraying water on its leaves, but by day 22, it wilted and died. As for plant K, it has a very similar story to plant C, as it was the only one that survived of its batch. It lasted for 29 days, and its leaves grew to a total of 6.4 centimeters. During its early stages, it didn't grow very well, so I had to transfer it to a hydroponic solution by day 6. It continued to wilt a little at the middle, but by day 13, you can see a new leaf starting to grow at the middle. This leaf continued growing till day 23, then the stem slowly grew soft, and sadly, it died. So if we were to compare the growth of these two plants, plant C showed a maximum total growth of 2.3 centimeters after adding water solution, while plant K showed a maximum total growth of 3.6 centimeters after adding to hydroponic solution. We can then conclude that hydroponic solution does help the lettuce to grow faster. To further support this, we can take a look at plant T and plant X and Y. The reason I chose plant T, X, and Y is because they grew after adding to their respective growth solution, while plant U, V, and W died shortly after adding to their respective solution. The factor that allowed plant T to grow is very similar to plant C, where the plant itself is strong and is able to take up water steadily without wilting, unlike plant U and V, where although they were from the same batch, they were not able to survive as their stem grew soggy and wilted throughout the whole experiment. Here you can see plant T and plant X and Y, plant T being in water solution and plant X and Y being in hydroponic solution. So our results showed that plant T grew to a maximum total of 0.9 centimeters after adding to water solution, and plant X and Y grew to a maximum total of 1.3 and 1.4 centimeters respectively after adding to hydroponic solution. Therefore, from this experiment on lettuce, we can conclude that hydroponic aids in the growth of lettuce. Next, my groupmate will present the same regrowth method on bok choy to see if there are any differences between the species of plants used.
Moving on to the results. The following tables show the result of bok choy regrowth attempts. 4 sets of bok choy were used in this experiment to regrow bok choy and compare the growth of bok choy between hydroponics and water. Each set contains 6 bok choy, and in total, 24 bok choy were used in this experiment. The height was recorded after 4 days of regrowing the bok choy in tap water, and the height of the original plant is recorded as before, and the height of the newly grown plant is recorded as after. The recording of the weight was collected by using an electronic weighing machine before cutting the bok choy and after the bok choy reaches its life limit. Set 1 showed 2 regrowth out of 6 bok choys. Bok choy number 2 grew up to 3.9 centimeters, while bok choy number 6 grew up to 3.2 cm. Both of them grew leaves but failed to grow roots. The rest of the bok choy failed to grow leaves and roots. Set 2 showed 1 regrowth out of 6 bok choys. Bok choy number 5 grew up to 3.1 cm, similarly to bok choys in set number 1. It grew leaves but not roots, and the rest failed to grow leaves and roots. Set 3 showed some improvements and had 3 regrowth out of 6 bok choys. Bok choy number 2, 3 and number 5 grew up to 3.3 cm, 3.1 cm and 3.4 cm respectively. These bok choys failed to grow roots and the rest failed to grow leaves and roots. Set 4 showed the best result. It had 4 regrowth out of 6 bok choys. Bok choy number 2, 3, 4 and 5 grew up to 3.3 cm, 3.4 cm, 3.8 cm and 3.6 cm respectively. However, they still did not show any sign of root growth and eventually rotted and died off. Comparing the first set and the fourth set, set 1 showed the highest average weight, but set 4 showed the highest average height. Furthermore, set 4 showed the highest frequency of regrowth before rotting away. These pictures show the bok choys on day 1 of the experiment and the rotting of bok choys a few days later. Moving on to the discussion of this experiment. The results of this experiment was completely different from the expected results. All the bok choys failed to grow roots, eventually rotting and dying. Some of the bok choys managed to grow leaves, but most of them failed. As observed from the tables, most of the bok choy's height remained at 3 cm before and after the experiment. Regarding the high frequency of leaves grown in set 4, this may be due to the small success of the trial and error methods used. Because of constant failure of the plant to grow leaves and roots, altering the environmental factors was imposed on each set of the bok choy to improve the chance of regrowth. By altering several factors such as water level, plant spacing, sunlight, and water cleanliness, set 4 had the most optimal environment that could be provided. Thus, the frequency of regrowth showed the highest frequency of leaves growing. Another underlying factor that may be overlooked is the water properties. pH value too high or low and minerals present in the water may not be suited for the regrowth of bok choy. It was not possible to test this as we lacked the equipment to test pH and minerals present. In summary, this experiment showed that bok choy could not even get past the regrowth phase. More time was needed to test for more factors that could be affecting the regrowth of bok choy. By comparing our results with online bok choy regrowing tutorial result, our result contradicts the result. Thus, more research is required to confirm the success of regrowing bok choy. Unfortunately, we were unable to compare the growth rate of bok choy in a hydroponic nutrient solution and in water as our samples died off before successfully making past the regrowth phase.
Thank you for watching, and we hope we were able to provide insightful information on how hydroponic plants work. Have a nice day!